Hello and welcome. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. Let's take this time together to step away from the rush of the day and ease into a world of dreams and wonder. Tonight, I'll tell you a story about a young elephant named Temba. Unlike the other animals in the savanna, Temba loved the rain. Where others saw storms to fear, he found comfort and joy. But when a long drought arrives, leaving the land cracked and weary, Temba's love for the rain may be the very thing that saves them all. This is a story about courage, hope, and how our differences can become our greatest gifts. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening from? And what time is it as you settle in to hear this story? We'd also love to know what kinds of stories you'd enjoy next. Your thoughts and suggestions inspire us, so please share them in the comments below. If you'd like even more from us, you can check out our Patreon, where you'll gain early access to all our stories, as well as a curated Spotify playlist to help you rest. And if these bedtime stories have been a gentle pause in your nights, subscribing is the simplest way to support us. It means the world to us, and it helps us keep this space soft and sacred for dreamers like you. Now, take a slow, steady breath and let your body grow heavier as you sink into comfort. Imagine the vast savanna stretching beneath a quiet sky, the soft whisper of wind brushing through tall grass, and the gentle hush that invites you to rest. In this stillness, let us begin our story of the elephant who loved the rain. The savanna stretched wide beneath the early morning sky, its golden grass swaying softly in the breeze. The clouds above were heavy, pregnant with rain, and the air held the cool, earthy scent of moisture waiting to fall. The other animals watched the horizon with wary eyes, already seeking shelter before the storm could break. But among them, one young elephant lingered with quiet excitement, his ears flapping eagerly, his trunk lifted toward the sky as though welcoming the coming gift. His name was Temba, and he loved the rain more than anything in the world. When the first drops began to fall, the gazelles bounded toward the trees, the zebras huddled together nervously, and the meerkats scurried underground. The birds fluttered into the higher branches, shaking the droplets from their feathers as though each one were a burden too heavy to bear. But Temba remained in the open, feeling the cool beads run down his broad ears, dripping from his trunk and sliding across his rough grey skin. To him, the patter of rain was music, a rhythm that no drum could match. He lifted one foot and stamped gently into the forming puddles, watching the ripples dance outward like tiny circles of joy. He trumpeted softly, a sound not of alarm, but of delight, and spun around in the grass as the rain thickened, falling in steady silver strands. His large body seemed almost graceful as he played, swaying side to side, dipping his head to splash water across his back. The earth darkened beneath his feet, and the scent of wet soil rose into the air, a perfume that always filled his heart with peace. Yet, as Temba reveled in the downpour, he noticed the eyes watching him from the edges of the clearing. A zebra peered nervously from behind a tree trunk, its striped body tense and stiff. A pair of antelopes stood in the distance, shaking their coats and flicking their tails, muttering to one another about how strange it was to see an elephant so happy in the storm. Even the monkeys high in the baobab branches chattered in disbelief, pointing their fingers as if Temba's joy were a puzzle they could not solve. "Why does he play in it?" whispered one antelope, her voice barely carrying over the rain. "Does he not know the rain can bring danger?" "Floods, mud, sickness. He is foolish," another animal replied, stamping his hoof as if to dismiss the thought of such joy. But Temba was not foolish. He was listening. He could hear the soft harmony of the raindrops tapping against the leaves, could feel the pulse of the earth as it soaked in the life-giving water. And he knew this moment was precious. He carried a secret joy that no one else seemed willing to understand. As the storm continued, Temba wandered further, his trunk raised to catch the drops, as though sipping from the sky itself. He wandered into the shallow streams that were filling once again after weeks of dryness, letting the cool current swirl around his feet. With every splash, he felt alive, felt connected to something bigger than himself, something ancient and eternal. When he returned to his herd, the older elephants shook their heads. "Why do you waste your strength in the rain, little one?" one of the elders asked, her voice deep and rumbling. "The rain is not to be trusted. It can vanish just as quickly as it comes." But Temba only smiled in his own quiet way, his eyes bright and gentle. He did not argue. He simply knew that rain was not something to fear. It was a friend, a companion that visited when the land needed it most. Though others ran and hid, though they whispered of danger, he believed with all his heart that rain was a blessing. As evening fell and the storm drifted eastward, the savanna glistened beneath the fading light. Puddles sparkled like mirrors, and the grass bent heavy with silver drops. The animals crept cautiously from their shelters, sniffing the damp air with suspicion. Temba, however, lay content beneath a tall acacia, his body still damp, his heart still humming with the memory of raindrops against his skin. That night, as the stars broke free from the last of the drifting clouds, Temba closed his eyes and drifted into sleep. The lullaby of rain still echoed in his memory, wrapping around him like a soft blanket. For Temba, the rain was not just weather. It was joy. It was peace. It was life itself. And though the rest of the savanna could not yet see it, deep within him, Temba carried a truth that would one day change everything. The next morning, the savanna glowed beneath a washed sky, the grass jeweled with droplets from the night storm. Temba awoke refreshed, his heart still humming with the memory of rain. He wandered out, ears flapping gently, trunk swaying as he sniffed the clean air. To him, the world looked brighter, renewed, and alive. But as he walked among the other animals, he could hear their voices, soft, uneasy whispers carried on the breeze. "The rain came too hard last night," murmured a zebra as she pawed at the damp ground. "My foal slipped and nearly fell." A family of meerkats peeked from their burrow, scolding in quick chatter. "The water poured into our tunnels. We barely kept our young ones safe." High in the branches of a baobab, two hornbills ruffled their wings, grumbling at each other. "The winds pushed our nests. We cannot trust storms like these. They come to tear down what we build." Temba listened quietly, his steps slowing as the words reached him. Everywhere he turned, he saw frowns and anxious eyes, tails flicking nervously, feathers fluffed in unease. Even the lions, who rarely spoke of fear, growled to one another about the danger of mudslides near their den. When Temba lifted his trunk toward the sky with a small trumpet of joy, the animals stopped to stare. "Why smile at the rain?" one gazelle asked, her delicate legs trembling. "Do you not see how it threatens us?" The young elephant lowered his trunk and blinked at her. "But it brings life," he said softly. "The grass is green again. The streams are full. Isn't that something to be glad for?" The gazelle shook her head. "Perhaps to you, but to us, the rain is worry. It makes our home uncertain." Temba did not argue. He simply lowered his gaze, though the warmth in his heart did not fade. He remembered the cool puddles and the gentle song of drops against leaves. To him, rain was comfort, not danger. Yet the whispers around him grew louder as he walked on, like the rustle of restless grass in the wind. As the sun climbed higher, the ground began to dry, and the fear of the storm slowly eased among the animals. But Temba carried their words with him. He wondered why something that brought him such joy seemed only to bring dread to others. And though the whispers quieted with the day, their doubt lingered in the air, as constant as the savanna wind. Days passed, and no more clouds gathered in the sky. The savanna stretched beneath the relentless sun, its golden fields fading into brittle shades of brown. The once soft streams shrank into thin trickles, their edges cracked and lined with thirsty earth. The animals wandered restlessly, their movements slower, their eyes dull with weariness. The zebras pawed at the hardened ground, searching for green shoots, but found only dust. Antelopes gathered at empty waterholes, sniffing the dry air in vain. Even the mighty lions, proud and strong, grew thin, their hunts made harder by the weakness of prey too tired to run. The birds flew farther and farther, wings heavy, seeking pools that had long since vanished. Temba watched quietly as the land he loved grew harsher. His trunk traced the edges of a once flowing stream, now nothing more than cracked clay. He missed the rain's gentle rhythm, the way it brought freshness to the air and life to the grass. The memory of those cool drops clung to him like a dream, but no one around him spoke of it with hope. Instead, fear and silence filled the savanna. The meerkats stayed close to their burrows, whispering about whether the earth would ever soften again. The elephants in Temba's herd grew more solemn each day, their steps heavier, their voices low. The youngest calves cried at night for water, and the elders shook their heads in worry. Each morning, the sun rose without mercy, and each evening, the sky burned red without a hint of clouds. The animals began to understand what true thirst meant, their fear of the rain fading into a new fear altogether, the fear of its absence. Temba stood beneath the wide shadow of a baobab tree, his eyes drifting over the dry expanse of the savanna. The ground was cracked and pale, the grass brittle beneath his feet. The air shimmered with heat, carrying no scent of rain, only the parched breath of the earth. Around him, the other animals moved quietly, each step weighed down by thirst and hunger. He remembered the days when he would play in the puddles, lifting his trunk to catch the falling drops, his heart filled with laughter. The memory was so vivid that he could almost hear the rhythm of rain still drumming against leaves. But now, when he spoke of those days, the other animals only looked at him with tired eyes. "Rain," muttered a zebra as she lowered her head to chew dry stalks. "There will be none. The sky has forgotten us." When Temba tried to smile and remind her of the last storm, she only turned away. The meerkats, once quick to chatter and scold, avoided him when he spoke hopefully of clouds returning. Even the birds, perched silently in the withering branches, would shuffle their wings and look elsewhere when he lifted his trunk to the sky. At night, as the herd gathered close for comfort, Temba would lie awake. The calves whimpered softly in the dark, nudging their mothers for milk that was thinning with each passing day. The elders whispered in hushed tones, their voices low with worry. Temba listened, but his heart clung stubbornly to the thought of rain. Still, he felt the space widening between himself and the others, as if his hope set him apart. One evening, he wandered alone to the edge of the plains. The horizon stretched endlessly, glowing with the last light of sunset. He closed his eyes and lifted his trunk, pretending he could feel cool droplets against his skin. In that moment, he was both joyful and lonely, carrying a secret love that no one else seemed to share. Though the savanna lay silent and weary, Temba held the rain in his heart. It was his comfort, his memory, and his song. But as he stood alone beneath the fading sky, he wondered if the others would ever understand why he loved it so deeply. That night, as the stars shimmered above the weary savanna, Temba lay close to his grandmother. The air was cooler after sunset, though still heavy with dryness. The herd rested together in a circle, their bodies pressed for comfort, but there was little peace in their hearts. The calves stirred restlessly, the mothers shifted with unease, and even the great elders sighed as though the weight of the drought pressed down on their backs. Temba's grandmother, her skin wrinkled and her eyes soft with age, leaned close to him. Her voice was low and steady, like the hush of wind through tall grass. "Temba," she said, "you speak often of rain. You look for it even when others do not. There is something in you that listens differently." Temba's ears flicked as he turned to her, his heart lifting at her gentle tone. "I do love it, grandmother. The rain feels like a song only I can hear. But no one else believes me when I say it will come again." She gave a small smile, her tusks gleaming faintly in the starlight. "Long ago, when I was young, my own mother told me a story. She said that hidden deep in this land is a secret watering hole, a place known only to elephants. It cannot be found by searching blindly. It is remembered in the sound of the rain, in the rhythm of its fall. Only those who love the rain, who trust it, can hear the path." Temba's eyes widened. "A hidden watering hole? Does it truly exist?" His grandmother lowered her head, her voice soft as a lullaby. "Some say it is only a tale, carried through the generations. Others believe it is real, a gift left for those who never lose faith. Whether truth or myth, I do not know. But I have always remembered her words. The rain leaves more than water behind. It leaves a memory." The stars twinkled brightly as silence fell between them. Temba lay still, his heart stirred by her story. The thought of a secret place, waiting beneath the vast plains, lit a spark of hope within him. While the herd drifted into uneasy sleep, Temba closed his eyes and imagined rain leading him forward, its rhythm guiding his steps into the unknown. That night, Temba drifted into sleep with his grandmother's words echoing softly in his mind. The hidden watering hole, remembered only through the rhythm of the rain. It filled his thoughts with wonder as he slipped deeper into dreams. The dry savanna around him transformed. Dark clouds gathered above, but instead of fear, he felt calm. Raindrops began to fall, not harsh or heavy, but soft and luminous, glowing faintly as they touched the ground. Each drop rang with a musical note, creating a melody that spread across the plains like a song meant only for him. Temba followed the sound, his feet splashing in puddles that shimmered like silver mirrors. The grass, once brittle and brown, grew tall and green before his eyes. Flowers bloomed along his path, their petals opening to greet the falling rain. Streams that had vanished returned, their waters flowing clear and bright, winding like ribbons across the land. With every step, the dream carried him forward, deeper into the heart of the savanna. Then he saw it. Beyond a grove of acacia trees, hidden in a hollow, the earth shimmered with light. The rain fell more gently there, forming ripples in a wide pool of crystal-clear water. It glowed as though the sky itself had poured its heart into the land. Animals gathered around the edges, their eyes filled with relief and peace, drinking freely without fear. The air was cool, the world alive once more. Temba lowered his trunk into the pool, feeling its freshness, its life. The water reflected his face, but in the reflection, he looked older, stronger, an elephant who had led others here. The music of the rain swelled, surrounding him in warmth, and he understood. This was not just a dream. It was a path, a memory waiting to be followed. When he awoke, the dawn was just breaking, the horizon painted with soft gold and pale rose. The savanna was still dry, but Temba's heart beat with a new certainty. The dream had left him with more than hope. It had given him direction. Somewhere out there, beyond the cracked earth and fading grass, the hidden watering hole was waiting, and he felt he was the one meant to find it. The morning sun rose over the savanna, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Temba walked beside his herd, his steps lighter than they had been in many weeks. The dream still lingered in his mind, the glowing rain, the hidden pool, the sense of purpose that had filled his heart. He knew, deep within, that the watering hole was real. The rhythm of the rain had shown him the way. Gathering his courage, Temba lifted his trunk and spoke. "I know where water can be found," he said, his voice steady though his heart raced. "The rain has told me. There is a hidden place waiting for us. If we follow, we will find it." The animals around him slowed, their weary eyes turning toward the young elephant. For a moment, there was silence. Then the doubts came. A lion, his ribs showing from hunger, let out a low growl. "You are only a calf, Temba. Do you think you know more than the elders?" The antelopes shook their heads, their ears flicking with unease. "We have wandered these plains all our lives," one said. "There is no such place. You chase a dream, nothing more." Even some of the elephants rumbled with disapproval. "Dreams do not feed us," one elder said. "Dreams do not quench thirst. We must stay where we are and wait for the sky to open." Temba's ears drooped, but he did not lower his gaze. The sky has been empty for too long, he replied softly. If we stay, we will grow weaker. I believe the rain has left us a memory, a path to follow. Please, come with me. There was a long pause. The zebras stamped nervously. The meerkats whispered among themselves, and the birds shifted uneasily in the trees. Most turned away, unwilling to risk what little strength they had left on a journey guided only by faith. Yet, not all dismissed him. A few young elephants stepped closer, their eyes filled with trust. A small herd of gazelles lifted their heads, drawn to the hope in his voice. Even an old wildebeest, weary but wise, nodded slowly. Perhaps, he said, the calf sees what we cannot. Though many doubted, a small group chose to follow. Their belief, fragile as it was, warmed Temba's heart. He was not alone. Together, they would take the first steps toward the unknown, guided by the memory of rain. The sun hung high in the sky, blazing down upon the savanna with an unforgiving glare. The earth cracked underfoot, pale and thirsty, while the air shimmered with heat. Temba led the way, his small band of followers moving behind him with heavy but determined steps. Dust rose with each footfall, clinging to their hides and stinging their eyes, yet they pressed onward, trusting the young elephant's quiet certainty. Among them walked a pair of gazelles, their slender legs trembling, but their eyes lifted with cautious hope. The old wildebeest trudged steadily, his breaths deep and slow, murmuring encouragement to those who faltered. A few younger elephants stayed close to Temba, their trunks brushing his side as though his courage gave them strength. The journey was not easy. The grass had withered to brittle stalks, sharp enough to prick the skin. Thorny shrubs scratched their flanks as they pushed through, and the ground grew harder the farther they walked, splitting into wide, jagged cracks. Above them, vultures circled lazily, as though waiting for the weary to stumble. Doubt grew heavier with every mile. Are we not walking into emptiness? A gazelle whispered, her voice almost lost in the wind. Another animal shook his head, muttering, "The young one dreams too much. There is no water here." Temba heard their words, but he did not stop. He remembered the dream, the glowing rain, the shimmering pool, and he held it close like a lantern in the darkness. "Listen," he said gently, pausing for a moment. "The earth remembers the rain. I can feel it. We are not walking into nothing. We are walking toward life." His calm voice soothed some of their fear, and they continued. Step by step, their trust deepened, though weariness tugged at their limbs. Hours stretched into the long, hot day, the horizon seeming endless. Yet with each stride, Temba felt the faintest pull within him, as if the rhythm of raindrops still guided his heart. As the sun sank lower and shadows stretched across the land, They reached a grove of acacia trees, their leaves sparse but offering a little shade. The travelers gathered there, resting their tired bodies. Though no water yet appeared, there was a quiet sense that they were closer than before, closer to something hidden just beyond sight. And for the first time in many days, hope lingered in the air like a soft breeze. The following morning, the group set out once more, their bodies weary, but their spirits held aloft by the promise in Temba's eyes. The young elephant walked with steady steps, his trunk occasionally touching the ground, as though he could feel whispers of rain still echoing beneath the earth. The land grew softer as they pressed on, the hard cracks of the plains giving way to soil darkened faintly with moisture. Though faint, the change was enough to stir murmurs among the animals. By midday, the sun was veiled by a thin haze, and the air seemed cooler. Ahead, a cluster of tall acacia trees rose like sentinels on the horizon, their roots reaching deeper than most. Temba's heart quickened. He remembered the grove from his dream, the place where the earth itself had glowed with hidden life. As they drew closer, the animals slowed, their tired eyes scanning the ground. At first, they saw nothing but dry leaves and dust. A murmur of doubt rippled through the group. "It is only trees," a gazelle whispered. "There is no water here." But Temba did not falter. He stepped into the grove, the air cooler beneath the shade of the branches. Pausing, he pressed his trunk to the soil. A shiver ran through him, the faintest dampness, a promise below. With determination, he began to dig. His trunk swept away dust and leaves, his strong feet pushing into the earth. Slowly, the ground gave way. The others watched, restless at first, until the sound of wet soil reached their ears. The old wildebeest stepped forward, his eyes wide. "Listen," he murmured. "The ground is speaking." With renewed strength, Temba dug deeper. The soil grew darker, cooler, until at last a glimmer of water seeped up through the cracks. It shimmered faintly in the dim light, spreading slowly into a pool. Gasps of awe and relief rippled among the animals as the trickle grew, filling a hollow that had long been waiting to awaken. One by one, the animals approached. They lowered their heads, drinking deeply, their bodies trembling with gratitude. The gazelles lapped eagerly, the elephants drank in long, refreshing pulls, and even the lions came forward, no longer snarling, but silent in respect. Temba stood at the edge of the pool, his chest swelling with quiet pride. The hidden watering hole was real, just as the rain had promised. For the first time in many moons, the savanna was no longer only a place of thirst, it was a place of life again. As the animals drank from the pool, a hush fell over the grove. The sound of lapping water was like music, soft and steady, weaving through the rustle of the acacia leaves. faces once shadowed by worry now glowed with relief. Calves splashed their trunks into the cool water. Zebras nudged one another playfully, and even the lions, usually so fierce, rested calmly near the edge, their golden eyes softened with peace. Temba stood a little apart, watching with quiet joy. His heart swelled as he realized the truth of what his grandmother had told him. The memory of rain had guided him here. The dream was not just a dream. It had been a gift, leading him to the place where life still lingered beneath the earth. For the first time, the others saw what he had always seen. That water, rain, and change were not to be feared, but cherished. As the animals rested, a low rumble stirred in the distance. The sky, pale for so long, began to darken with thickening clouds. The wind shifted, cooler and fresher than it had been in many weeks. Heads lifted, ears twitched, wings stretched wide. A drop fell, then another, until a curtain of rain swept across the savanna once more. But this time, the animals did not run for shelter. They remained where they were, lifting their faces to the sky. The zebras stamped their hooves in delight. The meerkats squeaked and danced at the water's edge, and the elephants raised their trunks high, trumpeting in celebration. Laughter and relief spread like the rain itself, washing away the fear that had once clung so tightly. Temba stepped into the open, letting the cool drops soak into his skin. The puddles grew around his feet, the earth softening, the air rich with the scent of renewal. He glanced at the others, who now splashed and played beside him, their joy matching his own. The rain had returned, and with it, harmony. As evening fell, the savanna glistened, alive again with color and sound. Flowers would bloom, streams would swell, and the land would breathe once more. And at the heart of it all stood Temba, the young elephant who had loved the rain even when no one else did, and whose love had saved them all.